Hello, welcome to another special Sudoku solve video. Today I'm going to continue Sudokuvania, as mostly per usual. Um, let's see. I'm gonna take count of what I still have to do. It's this bonus puzzle for sure. Which, looking at it, I see something at this point, and it's this boss. That's, I think, the next thing. I'm going to look at this bonus puzzle really quickly because, right, since this is a stretch of 3, this can either be like 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, or the other way around, but this is always 2 or 3, right? Same thing goes for this stretch of 3, so that's a 1 or a 4, that's a 1 or a 4. And if that's the case, right, this could be a 0, so that doesn't, it doesn't even have to be anything. So that is the next one, that's another stretch of 3, right? That's another stretch of 3. So that has the same property. Then that's a 1 or a 4, that's a 1 or a 4, that's a 1 or a 4, that's a 1 or a 4. That is. But how am I going to ever guess the orientation of anything? That's a 2 or a 3. Right, so that has to be... That has to be the edge, and then these are consecutive. That is how that works. So, okay, so I can pencil mark anything. I said these have to be consecutive, so they have to be something different. And this is going to be their edge piece. So that's then red. Then this is going to be the other one. That is going to be orange, blue, green. That's a 2, 3, so that's orange, red, and then green, blue, orange, blue, and you're red. Okay, so how do I differentiate anything? Right, I just know these are the two different edge pieces, but there are different thermometers. Do I have to keep count of this? Because these go into the same cell, right? This has to be a bulb, then. If this isn't the bulb, right? If this isn't the bulb, it goes back and forth, so that breaks. Is that the only place where that happens? No, it's also here. Then we're saying that this is a 1, 2, 3. This, they cross each other, they are not necessarily the same. These converge in the same cell. So this and this have to be a bulb. So that has to be ones. With these I am very scared that I make mistakes. Because I feel like that is very, yeah, that has to be a bulb. So we are being somewhat correct with this. You have found a hidden puzzle. Now, is that what they say is correct? Spider. No, they say it's wrong. Okay. Then I'm going to... Oh, wait. Aha. Okay. Okay, sure. That's why that was incorrect. Okay. Is that now correct? Yes, that does seem correct. Okay, now let's remove the coloring because that will mess with later things if I don't remove it now. Okay. So then it's time for the boss puzzle. The links are still broken, so I filled it in already. I pre-solved this puzzle and it was no, I didn't pre-solve it. I did it until I think what is the break-in. So obvious place to start is this middle cell, right? Okay, now let's go through the logic. You finally open the vault at the center of the temple. Inside, the frightened staff of Sudokuvania cower among the gold and riches they had hoarded. You urge them to leave while it is still safe, and they flee. The last custodian has just vanished from the temple when a secret passage opens to the side. You hear the confident voice of a tuxedoed man approaching from within. This is it. You are ready to confront them and stop their plans, whatever they may be. But the cultists begin chanting, and their words seem to be having an effect on the air itself. Sudoku, enter the digits 1 through 9 into each cell without repeating. Okay, so normal Sudoku rules. Digit sharing. Each cell's value for the purpose of clues is divided evenly among all clues that enter the cell. For example, if 2 lines intersect in a cell containing the digit 3, that cell has a value of 1.5 for each line. Okay, 10 lines. All lines are 10 lines. The colors are for disambiguation of the intersections. Each line can be divided by cell borders into discrete segments that each sum to 10. So normal 10 line rules except for the splitting part. Digits can repeat on lines or line segments if allowed by Sudoku. Okay, so I think an important thing to notice here is where do they all divide, right? It's those cells. And then this one in the middle, but I'll be looking at that in a second. And the thing is, they all divide by 2. And none of them have 3 cells, 3 different lines intersecting at a point, right? So the thing is, if you divide a digit by 2, it's either going to be something and a half or a whole number, right? It's either you divide an even or an odd digit. So in this middle cell, you're going to divide by 8. So you can either end up with a half because you need to eventually make a line a 10 line. So you have to add another half to it. You cannot make thirds or sixths or, you know, something weird like that. That doesn't work. So my logic there was this has to be a 4 or an 8. Because with 4 you either have a half, or with 8 you either have a 1 here as your sum. Now I think the maximum this can be is a 9, making it 4.5 as the sum for this line. 4.5 plus 1, 5.5. So this has to be a minimum of 4.5. So the minimum is 5 because it has to be a whole digit. It cannot be 5, so it's 6, 7, 8, or 9. Now, this line is interesting because each of its number is divided by 2. So the sum of this, I mean the purple line, right? The sum of that purple line, well, it has to be 20 because every digit is divided by 2. So we know that this is 20. So that is, can it contain a 1? If it contains a 1, you have 189, which is 18. That doesn't work. If it's 2, you have 19. So it cannot contain 1 or 2. So one of those digits is 1 or 2, but that is not. It's not significant. I think it's more significant that these cannot be 1 or 2. So I think this isn't a lot of options, right? Let's go through it. If that is 6, no, let's start with 9. I like 9 a bit more. If that is 9, then that is either a half or it's 1. If it's 9, that cannot be 1 because then you would create 10 in this line. And this 3-cell line has to be one 10 line. It cannot be split into 2 segments because you cannot make a single cell add up to 10. So this is one 10 line. If that's 9, that has to be 4. And then you have 9.5. So that has to be a 1. And that doesn't work because there cannot be a 1 on this line. So 9 doesn't work. If that is 8, that has to be 4. So then we have 8.5. Then we need 1.5 more. So that will be a 3. If that's a 7, if that's a 7, if that is a 7, what are we saying? If that's a 7, it can go with a 1, making it total 8, making that have to be a 4, because you need 2 more. If that is 7, going with a 4, that is 7.5, so you need 5 more, as in 2.5. If that is 6, with an 8, making it 7 as a sum, then you need 3 more, that has to be a 6. That doesn't work. So if that is an 8, that has to be a 7. If that's an 8, that has to be a 7. Okay. If that is a 6, then it can go with the 8, making that a 1, making it 7 into... wait, no, I looked at that. That doesn't work. 6 with a 4. 6 with a 4 is 6.5. So you need 3.5 more, making that a 7. Okay. Now what I think is interesting, and I don't know if that is going to be what I think it will be. So if that is an 8, that has to be a 7. We looked at this now. So this line has similar properties, right? I looked at this. This has to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, or 9. It couldn't be 9, because then 9 with 4, and that would have to be a 1. That doesn't work. And we know that if that's an 8, that's a 7. So if that's an 8, that cannot be another 7. Because if that's a 7, we looked at it. If that's 7 with an 8, that makes 8 as a sum. So we need 2 more, so that has to be a 4. Then this line has to be the same, so that has to be another 4. So if that's an 8, that has to be a 5, because no other digit would work. Because 6 forces another 6 there. So does 5 with an 8 work? 5 plus 1 makes 6, so we need 4 more, that has to be another 8. That doesn't work, so we know that that's a 4. So that's not a 4. Right, and these are just... yes, and these options are just these options together. Okay. 3 goes with 8, 9. That is very specific. But I think that could work. Let's go through the options, because this can have 5. So it has the 3, 5, and 7. But I think 5 plus a half is 5.5, so we need 4.5 more, so that is a 9. So that does work. So these are both odd. Which makes sense, because that's a half, and we need to add another half. So does that mean these both have to be even? No, they could both be odd. Right, because two half odd digits make... Yes, that is a general concept, right? 2 half digits, if you have 2 uneven half digits, they make a whole number. And if you have 1 half odd, 1 half even, you get a point something number, 0.5. Right, okay, so whenever we connect these, yes, so this has to be odd. That's basically what I'm saying. And one of those has to be odd. If this is odd, it has to connect to that one. Is that possible? Wait, maybe that's more significant. This has to be odd. Because we need to make this 10 line a whole number, and this provides a half, so we need to provide another half. So this is an odd digit. I'm just going to label that for my own keeping track. Can that odd digit connect to that odd digits? So the minimum for these 3 digits, because it sees a 1, is 239. 234, which sums to 9. So then we need one more, which would be 2 halves, but then that would have to be a 1, and that would have to be a 1, and that doesn't work. Because this already sees the 1. So that's not the case. This one never connects to that one, so this has to be even. Yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, that has to be even, and it doesn't connect to this one. So what does this one connect to? It must connect to that one. So this also has to be odd. 7, 9. And that then has to be even because, wait, no, no, that could never be 9.5. Right, because for a 10 line you need at least 2 digits. So the minimum is 2 and the maximum is 4 in a normal 10 line puzzle, but this is not a normal 10 line puzzle. So this can provide a maximum of 4.5. For the sake of logic, this can provide a maximum of 4.5. So that's 9, so it needs at least another one. And if it does, it takes the whole line. So this is one 10 line. This is one 10 line. So this provides a half, this provides a half, so this cannot provide a half. So that's 2, 4, 6, or 8. This 10 line, yeah, it has the same problem. It can never be 2 cells, right? Because this can be a maximum of 4.5. No, it could. It could. Right, because that could just be a 6 and this could be an even number and then we would be fine. Okay, then I'm gonna look at this a bit more because these cannot be 3 because of that 3, I guess. But we know that these are connected because they provide a half. So what's the minimum they can give? It's 1 and 5, so that's 3. So this is either, or it can be 1 and 7, I guess, which would give 8, which would make that a 6. So this is either 6 or 7. So we know that this is 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it does contain a 1 or a 2. Okay. I don't know. But that does mean that this cannot take another cell, right? Because 1, 5, 3, plus 6, then that would have to be a 1, no. So that doesn't take another cell. I'm gonna do that real quick. Could this be 1 10 line? Yes, I think. No, maybe not. Right. I don't think this could be another 10 line. Because if it is, right, minimum 2, 3, 4, which makes 9, and that would have to be another 2. That doesn't work. Now, could we finagle that some... could we, move that somehow to make it work a different way? I don't think we can, because if we change any of the numbers here, we already reached 10. And then we cannot do that again. So these are 2 different 10 lines. So this is I'm gonna make that red. This is 2 different lines and they sum to 10. So this is either a 2 with a 9, a 4 with an 8, a 6 with a 7, or an 8 with a 6. So we have something. So this 10 line. That, oh wait, this is one 10 line. It must be, because even if that's a 9, it goes 9.5. So it needs another cell and then it needs both, because that cannot be an isolated cell. So this is an odd digit. Not 8. I'm sorry, not 8, and it's not 3 or 5. So what does this odd digit connect to? Because this 10 line, this big purple 10 line, right, is, I think, a problem, because this doesn't give a half. This gives an even total. So this half needs to pick up another half, and I think we're reaching the same spot we did here. Right, because this odd one has to pick up that odd one. These are both odd, that's not a 5, I guess. Right. No, but it couldn't, because that 2. So how does that work? It could be 1, 3, making it 2, making that sum to 8. And that's the bare minimum. Right, what I'm saying is these have to connect. So these are part of the same 10-line piece. They could take more cells, I don't know. But I don't think they do, because it sees this 2. And now if we minimize everything, so 1, 3, that gives us 4 halved is 2. So then these sum to 2, so this has to sum to 8. And the minimum we can make these sum to is 1, 3, 4, which is 8. So they have to be that, because if I minimize everything, if you minimize everything, and it's, I want to put this into words so I am sure I understand, right? If you minimize everything, and that's fitting, right? Then it must be the case, because if we increase any of these numbers by anything, it breaks. You cannot make this arrangement again. There's no way you can make this arrangement. If I make one of these a 5, we get the problem here where you force a 2 onto this line. Yes. Yes, I am convinced by that. Which does mean that one of those has to be a 1, right? Because if that's not the case, then this is 5, 7. Then that sums to 12, half the 6, so then that has to sum to 4, and that obviously doesn't work. Okay, so these being like this, right? This providing 1.5, this providing a half, means that these have to sum to 8. And this is an even digit, so this is just an even digit. I know it cannot be 2 because we looked at that before. It cannot be 4 because of the box, so that's a limited amount of digits. These sum to 8. This provides either 3 with a 5, or it provides 4 with a 4. And that doesn't work because of 1, 3, 4, so that's a 5. Then that must be a 6, right? I'm gonna recount that, because 2, 7, yeah, with a 6, providing 3. So that's not a 6. It's a lot to keep track of. So these sum to 14 together. So they cannot contain a 3 anymore. In what case was there a 3? I think it's 8. It must be 8, right? Because 8 with a half, 8.5, you need 1.5 more, so that's the 3. So this cannot be 8. Right, and these sum to 14. It's not double 7, so we know that it is 5, 9. So a half plus 2.5 is 3 with a 7. A half plus 4.5 making 5, so that's a 5. So we know that that's not a 5. Can these be... If these are 1, 7, they are 8, 4, so then that's a 6. That does work, but they cannot be 1, 9, right? 10 making 5, then that has to sum to 5. No, that doesn't work. So these are not that. They are not 9. 5, 5, so one of those is a 5. Right. So this provides a half, so one of those has to provide a half. We know that this is the start of a new 10 line. We know that this is a 10 line. Right. do we know that this is one whole 10 line? I think oh yes, it is the case because it's the same as this one. All right, if you add, you cannot add 9 to it anymore, but if you could, that could only create 9.5, so you need another one, yes. So this is one whole 10 line. But they can sum to a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. This is a 10 line, and they sum to 1, so these together sum to 9. So 4, 5 doesn't work. What can this be? Oh, not this one. I wanted to look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doesn't work. 7 or 8. And they have to sum to 9. So that's 8, 7. Oh, not 9. 8, 7, 6, 2, or 1. If we pair up those, it's not 1, so that's not 8. Is that it? Oh, that's not 7, so that's not 2. If this is a 10 line and that has to be a partner in a 10 line, then this has to be one 2-cell 10 line, same as this one. So 8 goes with 6. 4 goes with 8. 2 goes with 9. It's not 6, so that's not 8. That's it. I think that's all. You know that one of those is a 4. Then one of those is a 1. I guess. That's not a 4. Okay, and this is around the part where I left off with me doing the puzzle. I think I'm a bit further than I was, but I did it like last week and then I had exams, so I guess that's just what it is. 2, that's not 2, that creates a 2-4 pair, but that's stretching it. This has to be a sum of some kind. If that's a half. Oh, 1 second. My dog started barking downstairs, but I truly do not know why. Let's see. I have to get my bearings for a second, just to get back. This half needs another half, and it's not getting it from there, so it must get it from there. So this is an uneven digit. It's not 9. So this takes at least that one, but... Okay, so this cannot be another 10 line, right? This one takes this cell, takes that cell as a minimum, right? Let's say this is a 10 line and that's a 10 line. And this is a 10 line and that is a 10 line, and these would have to be the same digit because they share that digit in common. So that's not the case. So this is one whole 10 line. And that couldn't be 4, I guess. So that couldn't be 8. I don't know what to do with that information. Well, this half needs another half somewhere, right on this purple line. But it could be that one or that one. I don't know. But this being a whole thing, if that is 8, then we have 4, and then minimize the rest. 1, no, that doesn't work. It's hard to say, right? Because these two digits together are a minimum of 1 and 2, making it 3. Well, it's not, well, yeah, no, that does work. Okay. I'm unsure. This minimum, wait, that is something, right? If we say 3, if this is a whole 10 line, then the minimum it can be is 236, which is 11. That doesn't work. So we need to divide this up. This cannot be 3 cells because its minimum is 2, 3. If we make it 2, 3, 4, that could work. And then that could be a 2. Never mind. That does work. 2, 3, 4 with a 2 does work. Okay. That is frightening. And then that could take its uneven digit from there, and then we will be fine. Okay. This line then. Right, let's go scenario by scenario. If that is 4 with 2, 1, right? 4 plus, so that's a half, 1.5, 2 makes that an 8. If that is 4 with a 2, so that is 2.5 is 1.5 plus 3.5 makes 5, so then that would be a 5. That doesn't work. Am I saying that correctly? A half, 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 3.5 is 5. Yes, that's right. If that is 4, then that's a 4. So if that's a half, 2.5, 3 would make that a 7. A half, 2.5 plus 3.5 is 6. Would make that a 4. That doesn't work. So it's either, what did I say? I think I said 4, 2, 1. I think I said 4, 2, 1, which would make 1, 2 with 8, yes. Or I said 4, well, okay, so now if that's a 7, we know that that has to be an 8 because we went through all the options. Is that possible that that is a 7? If that is a 7, then that is an 8, so we have 3.5. No, that isn't. Right, the other option, what I think was 4, 4, 1. So half, 2.5, 3, yes. Okay, so that's always a 1. In any case, it's either, this sums to 1, with either 2 or 3. Yes, okay, so then that's that. Okay, makes sense. But that's rough. I don't know if I should move through the puzzle like that. Maybe I should. But that does give me a 1. Now what does that do? Not much, I don't think. Could that ever be an 8? No. Because 8 plus 1 is 9, and we cannot make those add up to 1, so that cannot be an 8. Can this ever be an 8? 8.5? Eight and a half. Well, okay, so let's look at this line. Is this one 10 line or is this multiple? Because this needs at least this one. And this couldn't be functioning in just 2 cells, so it must take another one. Because if it does, right, even if that's a 9, that is only 5.5. So it takes another one. So this is one whole 10 line. So that couldn't be an 8, because then that would be 9 already. So that cannot be 8, that cannot be 8. Can this be 8? 8 plus 1 makes 9, and that couldn't be 1 as a sum. So that cannot be 8. None of these can be 8. This is the only place 8 can go. So we know that's 1, so that's 2, then that's 1, so that's 9. Right, okay, that's progress. That's progress. We could even have a 9 on here with the 2 there, I think. Yes, okay. I'm not going to rule that out. So, but 7 can be in any one. I am not prepared to go. Actually, I know that 7, 2.5 as a minimum, plus a half is 3, so that cannot be a 7. I know that one. This one as a minimum is a half, makes that 1. Oh, that could be a 7 anyway. Could that be a 7? Because if none of these can be 7, then that's a 7. That's my reasoning here. If that is a 7, we already have 8. Then we have, well, 2 and 3 here as minimums. And that's too much. Because 3 halved is 1.5 plus a half is 2. And then we need 1, so we end up with 11. And that doesn't work, so that is the 7. So a half plus 1 makes 8. So that has to be a 2. Yes, that has to be a 2. So this is 1, 2, or 3. So one of those is a 1. That's not 2, that's not 2, that's not 2. So that's a 2. 3. I don't have 3 yet here. Oh, 2, 3. So we know that that's a 4. So we know that that is a 1, 2 pair. Oh, that's a 1, 2 pair. Now we know that this is 7. So this has to sum to 6. So that's a 5. And now we have more. So that's a 5. Now we have more, but it's not a lot more. But we know what this sums to. It's what is it? 2.5 plus a half is 3. So this sums to 7. So with a 3, that's a 4, 5, or 6. It's not 5, so that's not 2. Oh, so that's not 2. But that's, I think, all we know. One of those is an 8. So one of those is a 2, but I don't know. I don't know. This is still difficult. Could this be a 10 line? And that's an 8. That does seem to work to me. Six isn't one of those. 7 isn't one of those. What am I missing in this box? A 3 as well. 3 is just not there. But we knew because of that 3. Okay. So this is a 10. And it isn't 1, 9 or 2, 8. So it's either 3, 7 or it is 4, 6. It isn't 4, 6 because it breaks that square. So that's a 3, 7. So that's not a 7. So that means that that's not a 6. Oh, that 3 fixes the 3 and the 7. 4. What am I missing in this column? It is 4, 5, 6, and 8. And we know that that's not a 4. No, that that's not a 4, so that must be a 4. Right. That 4 places that 4, which places a 4 into one of those, which I could have seen earlier, but I don't think it mattered. Wow. Wow, okay. This 4 being placed makes that a 6. These had to sum to 7, so that's a 1. So we know that neither of those is a 1. That 3 makes one of those a 3. I don't think I want to label that yet. I was looking at it, right? That could have been, because they cannot contain a 1, I said that this could be a string. Could this be a string of 3? Was my question. And it couldn't be a string of 3, because then you would have, if it doesn't contain a 1, you would have 2, 3, 5. And, well, this cell just cannot be 2, 3, 5. It cannot be a 5, so that doesn't work. So if this is a string of 3, it's a string of 4. With 2, 3, 4 and a 2, making it 10. That doesn't work anymore. And the reason that doesn't work is because this cannot be 2, 3, or 4. So I don't see a way that this could be a string of 3, right? I'm asking what 10 line does this cell belong to, is the question I'm asking. It's either 2, which is fine, which will make that an 8. It could be 3, and 3 doesn't work, so then it could be 4, but 4 doesn't work. Could it be 5? No, because then that's 3 as a minimum, because we need, no, that doesn't work. So no, so that is not a 3 string digit, so that's a line there, so that we know that that's an 8. So we know that that's an 8, and that's a 6. So this cell has to belong to at least that cell, but also that cell, right? Because no, not necessarily. That could be just a 9 or anything. Okay, that was a hasty deduction. What am I missing here? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's a 3 then, because of the 6 and a 7. That's 6, place the 6 and the 7. So that's a 1, 2, 3 there. Which puts a 3 into one of those. What am I missing here? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. And this is 1, 4. Oh, 4, I said. Okay, so that's quite a high digit. That is quite a high digit. That's not a 1 anymore. But the rest I cannot. I can't not know, I don't think. What am I missing here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We know that that's not a 7. And that's also 7, 8, or 9. So this is also 7, 8, or 9. And we know that that's not a 7. Oh, and this is either 2 with a 9, or this is 8 with a 6, yes. So this is somewhat of an 8-9 pair. So 8 cannot be there, but 8 could be in one of those, I think. Yes. I don't see why it couldn't. Right, I said that this is one whole 10 line, right? What's the lowest odd digit that I can put in there? Because I must put an odd digit on there. Because if I don't, we end up with a half from that 4. So the lowest odd digit we can put in there is a 7. Because it cannot be 1, it cannot be 3, it cannot be 5. So it's a 7, which provides 3.5. So that's already 4, 5. So those 2 digits must sum to 5. So can that ever be an 8? Could we ever put an 8 on... Could we ever put an 8 on there? Is kind of what I'm saying. 8 halved makes 4, then that would have to be a 1. That doesn't work. So one of those is 8. That's an 8. We cannot put an 8 on there, so one of those is 8. So we know that one of those is 8. That aligns with these 8s, so that is an 8. Weird, okay. So it sums to 5, right? So it's either 2 with a 6 or 3 with a 4. Could we put 9 on there? Could this contain a 9? Or does this always contain a 7? If we put 9 on there, we have 5, 6 in total, and these sum to 4. So it's either 2 with a 4 or it's 3 with a 2. And both seem to work. Okay. Makes sense. Of course. So I think it is starting, we have to start thinking about this, but I really do not want to. 5, 5, 5, so one of those is a 5. In fact, 5. Well, 5 is in one of those. Okay. Well, 5 is in one of those. Sure. I have to think more, I think, about 10 lines in general. Which, in a 10-line puzzle, makes sense. Okay, so we couldn't put an 8 on there. So... But that could still just be a 2-cell line, and that could be a line. But one of those is odd. Could this be one whole line? I'm having trouble seeing why it couldn't. Okay, let's look at something else then. If that's a 2, that must be an 8. So if that's a 2, then we have 4, 6, 6.5, possibly a 1, 7, which will make that a 3. That does work. So Sudoku then. Somewhere. 3, 4. So one of those. 5, 6. Could be any of them. 7, 8, and then 9. Could be in any of them. I don't like that. I do not like that. So it must be meddling somewhere here. There must be something that is breaking it up down here. And I don't see what it is. I feel like I must be very, very close. Right, so that's another 8 or 9. Oh, wrong pencil mark. I used this. 8, so one of those an 8. Could that ever be an 8? If that is an 8, no, that creates 10, that doesn't work, so one of those is an 8. Nine is in one of those. I hate that. Okay, I'm not going to use that pencil mark. Could that be a 7? Could that be a 7? 7 needs 3 more. So it could be with a 6. I don't see a problem. Okay. Six then. Could that be a 6? 2 makes 8. 9. And then that could be 1. And yeah, that does work. So one of those is odd and one of those is even. That's the only thing I kind of know at this point. And this groups up with the odd one. It doesn't, but you don't know how necessarily. This is one whole 10 line. So what digit can this be? I'm just going to go like that and then eliminate stuff. Obviously not 4 or 5. Not 9. Not 8, we looked at that. Not 7 because of Sudoku. So somewhat limited. Could we ever get high enough with a 1? 1, 3 makes 4. With that as an 8 makes 8. Yes, we can. Okay. 1, 2, 3, or 6. I'm going to stare at this for a bit and give me a few seconds. Okay, it did cost me a few minutes, So I'm glad I paused. I took, yeah. So what I saw is that these 7s make this not be able to be a 7, that's 7, so one of those is 7, right? And I thought, I looked at this and I said, okay, that could be a 7. I looked at that earlier, but I never asked, could that be a 7? If that's a 7, then with that we have 4, so then these need to sum to 6. That then has to be a 2, because if that's an 8, then that sum is 4 with this 2 is already 6, so that doesn't work. So that has to be a 2, which will make that a 3, so that makes a sum of 4. And then we need another 2, and that doesn't work. So that cannot be a 7. So that has to be a 7. Now, to be more precise about this 7, I don't think it could, right? This cell of the purple line obviously connects to it, but could it take this one as well? Now, the smallest that this can be is, no, I think I'm mistaking. It could be this. Could it be? No, because then that minimum is 13. So these are different regions of the 10 line. These are different regions of the 10 line. This at least takes that one. Could this be the possible arrangement of the 7? If that's the case, then this is an odd digit as well. So that's another, that's then has to be a 9 as a minimum, and that's already too much. So that doesn't work. So that's a 6. This is our 10 line, and then that's our 10 line. So that is an odd digit, so that's 7 or 9. Oh, I messed up. That's a 7 or a 9. Now, how could we ever know? If that's a 9, well, that now cannot be even, so that's not a 9. Because then that would have to be a 2, that's what I meant. If that's a 7, and the minimum of this is already 3.5, so that doesn't work. If that's a 6 with a 7, that's already 9.5, so then that has to be a 1. So we need to minimize, and that's this. Now we know that that's a 9, that is a 7. 7 makes that not be able to be a 7, so that is our 7. Right, okay, that's it. That's it, that must be. I hope. 9 makes that an 8. 9, 8, 9, 8. Makes that not be able to be a 9, so that's a 6 with an 8 there. And that is interesting, because this sums to 1 basically. That makes 4, so that's 5. So these need to sum to 5, so it's a 2, 3 pair. So that's our 1. That's not an 8. That 8 places the 8 and the 5. This is a 2, 3 pair. Oh, I know this sum, right? That looks like a lot. Half is 3.5. 4, 7. Right, am I counting that right? Yes, 7, 8, so that's a 2. It would be so sad if I made a mistake now. So 2, 1. 2 makes that last 2, right? One more. 2 1s. Not quite yet. 4. Also no. Well, yes, okay. 4 is in one of those two, so 4 is here. It's the last number we need in a row, so I could have seen that as well. So we know that that's our 4, that's our 3. 4 is in one of those, so the 4 is there. So we know that that's our 1. Sevens. 7, 7, and 7. That's all our 7s. 3s then? Not yet. I don't think. What am I missing in this column? It is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. 5s. I'm just missing this 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 and 9. So 6 and 9. 9 then. 9. 9. 9 and 3. 3. 4. 4. 6. That's it. Okay. The last of the cultists flees. There is no sign of the man in the tuxedo anywhere. You have defeated the cultist and solved every boss puzzle. You can leave with the castle's treasure if you wish. Their plans probably weren't set in motion, right? Enter a 6 into this puzzle's boss cell. A 6. Let's do that, and then I'm going to cut it off from there. Secret passage. A secret passage. I need to look more at the outside the grid rules in order to solve this, but I will in the next one. Solve the fast travel zip line. Yes, I need to do that as well. There's another hidden puzzle that I've not seen yet. I did all the food. So I need to solve this, I think. But maybe I'll get more information later. I'm not sure, though. I feel like this maybe needs... There's another hidden... Oh, yes. I think... Hidden puzzle. Yes, okay. I don't know how to get it, but I'll see. We'll see. Yes, but that's it for today. That was very, very rough. That puzzle was intense. Okay, but anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day, and well, thank you for clicking on this video and watching until here. That does mean a lot to me. I really enjoy Sudoku and doing this type of thing. So I'm glad you do too. Have a nice day. Thank you.